Hello, ladies. I'm Pamela McClanahan, a forgiven daughter of the Most High King and co-founder of a ministry in Kenya called Love Matters Most. I was asked to share a few weeks ago about how God has helped me refocus in recent weeks, and He gave me a good opportunity to do that. Our ministry in Kenya is about saving lives and preventing orphans. So when a good friend and board member offered us a beautiful home in Granite Bay to use as a fundraiser, we said yes. When he gave it to us, we only had 2 months to prepare because the date was June 19th, and so we started work rapidly. It was about 5 weeks into our preparations that I was hit with a devastating loss. Edith Chama, the wife of the director of our ministry in Kenya, contracted COVID-19, and 1 week later, she was dead. It was unbelievable. The hospitals in Kenya were over capacity, and they were out of oxygen. It was simply heartbreaking. But I had work to do, and I needed desperately to refocus. It was about that time my husband shared with me this little book called The Prayer Cottage and Sacred Garden by Rocky Fleming. It's a story of a man whose life has gone off track, and through a vision, God invites him on a journey. I was immediately taken in. The journey begins in the prayer cottage in the first room, which is called the Grace Room. And here's an excerpt from the book. The Lord then said, "In the grace room, I want you to slow down and consider my grace. I want you to remember the pitiful conditions from which I rescued you. I want you to consider the things for which I've forgiven you and the great price I paid to redeem you." Then the author continues, "I settled into the chair and immediately felt a loving acceptance. I breathed out a weary sigh, and a wonderful calmness fell over me. I felt that God was giving me permission to let go of deadlines, commitments, and troubles for the time being. I remembered that a grateful heart and a thankful attitude are essential requirements for drawing close to Christ. Next, I entered the examination room. This is the place where I laid myself before the Lord and asked Him to reveal anything that was displeasing to Him. During this time, I discovered that sin is not only found in the things that we do that displease God, but it also shows up when our faith is weak, when we forget that God is all-knowing and all-powerful and present everywhere all the time, when we forget that He is all-loving and kind and good. I needed to refocus and count my blessings, which thankfully are so many, I couldn't list them today. After leaving the examination room, I was invited in this little book to enter the courtyard, which is described as a beautiful place filled with many varieties of fragrant plants. And in the middle, a huge boulder, 30 feet tall. From the top, crystal clear water gurgled down the rock as a waterfall, filling a pool below. It was in this pool that the Lord invited me to linger and wash. He reminded me that my sins are forgiven. And not only that, they are removed from me as far as the east is from the west. I soaked in His word, remembering verses from Philippians 4 that I'd memorized long ago. And I let go of the burden I was carrying. I remembered that God's grace is sufficient, and His power is made perfect in my weakness. Soaked in His word, remembering that His grace is sufficient and His power is made perfect in my weakness. And I let go of the burden I was carrying. By refocusing on God's truth, I began to relax and trust God in all these things. It didn't magically make everything better, but it did put it in perspective. And our June 19th event was a huge success. Here's the bottom line. Life is precious and it's short, and we must never forget the one thing that is most important to us, and that is our relationship with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I hope you'll pick up this little book and spend some time with God in the prayer cottage and the sacred garden. He'd love to meet you there. Thank you.